uncovered.
Have you ever thought about hurting her or killing her?
I've had a couple dreams like that.
And how would you kill her?
Depending on the dream.
So there's several dreams.
Yes.
The Murder of Grace Jennings, the Santa Fe sword killing. Good day, everyone, and welcome back to Murder Mysteris, the channel that examines America's most disturbing criminal cases with clarity, precision, and a commitment to uncovering the complete truth behind the headlines. Today's investigation leads to the city of Santa Fe, New Mexico, where a crime so violent and incomprehensible unfolded inside a quiet residential neighborhood.
Need
someone on the back side, on the alley.
Somewhere down here, 5941.
We're gonna walk in.
Who?
Kick it in.
Let's put on the door.
Kick the door. I got you covered.
Police department, let me see your hands!
Back up!
Back up!
What's going on?
Who called?
What?
So someone was getting killed in here.
That even seasoned detectives struggled to understand its brutality. Before we continue, please do not forget to like and subscribe. Continued support allows this platform to keep documenting the most shocking criminal cases across the United States and to bring forward the facts that shape public understanding of these tragedies. This is the devastating case of 19-year-old Kiara McCulley, her 18-year-old ex-girlfriend, Grace Jennings, and the horrifying chain of events that occurred inside the home of Kiara's mother, Tara McCulley. What began as what appeared to be a young person seeking safety, shelter, and familiar surroundings would escalate into a violent act carried out with a 3-foot-long sword. Investigators would soon uncover a sequence of decisions, influences, and hidden communications that revealed a far deeper and more troubling narrative than anyone expected. On an October afternoon in 2022, law enforcement officers responded to a tip that directed them to a residence on Jaguar Drive. Officers arrived at the address belonging to Tara McCulley, a woman who believed her home to be a safe environment for her daughter. Inside that home, however, officers found a crime scene so severe that it immediately demanded a full homicide investigation. 18-year-old Grace Jennings, who had once been in a relationship with Kiara, was dead in the garage, her injuries so extreme that investigators described the attack as nearly a decapitation. The murder weapon was a long sword that appeared to have been used with deliberate force. In the hours following the discovery, Tara McCulley sat beside her daughter, unaware that her child had been involved in the violent killing that had occurred only feet away from where they had both spent their morning. Tara had no knowledge of her daughter's involvement, no indication that anything unusual had occurred, and no suspicion that a homicide had taken place inside the same structure. This moment would become one of the central points of discussion among investigators.
Who's in this garage?
My fucking door!
Okay, what's what you... Someone just called that someone just got... Step over here. Step over here. Someone just got stabbed inside that garage.
Is that you? What?
Go back inside. Go back inside. I'm not gonna tell you again. Go back inside.
Detain him, detain him.
What are you talking about?
Santa Fe police, anyone inside?
Watch it. Yeah, I can't. Got one down.
They can't.
Legal analysts, and the surrounding community. How could such a violent act take place without the homeowner having any awareness of it at all? How could a murder of that magnitude unfold quietly enough that no outcry, noise, or sign of conflict was detected? Investigators began piecing together the events that led to Grace's death.
Slashed on her knee.
She's missing a ear.
And then there's a big ass sword, and then there's blood stains all over the bed.
I walked into the garage. She goes, "Oh, I just did it."
Walk this way.
Early findings revealed that Grace had been lured to the McCulley home under the appearance of safe shelter. She believed that she was being offered a temporary place to stay. Instead, she walked into an environment influenced by manipulation, jealousy, and what detectives later described as coercion. According to police reports and subsequent legal filings, Kiara was not acting alone. Her boyfriend, 25-year-old Isaac Apodaca, emerged as a major figure in the case, someone who allegedly used emotional pressure, influence, and control to push Kiara into committing the killing. Communication between Kiara and Apodaca would soon become a major component of the investigation. Detectives identified secret messages, hidden exchanges, and disturbing discussions that suggested Grace's death had not been spontaneous. Instead, these messages indicated an intentional plan that grew from a combination of jealousy, resentment, and psychological manipulation. Police believe that Apodaca wanted Grace dead and that he encouraged Kiara to carry out the act. The dynamic between the two teenagers became clearer through interviews, phone records, and the gradual unraveling of the narrative each suspect initially attempted to provide. When questioned, both Kiara and Apodaca gave conflicting accounts. Their versions of events changed repeatedly, shifting as detectives presented new information and as the weight of the crime became impossible to deny. Over time, the facts began to align into a disturbing story. Grace had been brought to the home under false pretenses, attacked with extreme violence, and left in the garage, where officers later found her body. The nearly decapitated state of the victim indicated multiple forceful swings of the sword, raising questions about the level of intent, the emotional state of the attacker, and the psychological environment that allowed such brutality to occur.
He's coming out. Is that Isaac? Did you call us, bro? Here, come over here. You're good. Come here. You don't have any knives, any weapons on you?
No.
No? Just put it down for now. Just put it down. You're not in trouble, bro. Gotta make sure you don't have any weapons, okay? Here, put your hand.
The involvement of two young individuals, one barely 19 and the other just 18, immediately drew national attention. True crime observers, legal analysts, and community members struggled to comprehend how a relationship among three young adults could collapse into such severe violence.
Okay.
And I messaged Dagger because it's...
Why is blunt better? She says you say it cuts like butter. She says just gonna stab the throat. Is that what she's trying to say?
the thought.
Just gonna stab the thought. Yes. Instant, or will it take long? What does she mean? Instant. What do we do about the mess? We burn it and I'll buy new blankets and bed? What's going on here, Isaac?
This case became widely discussed because it involved not only a teenage perpetrator, but also a teenager who had been lured into a fatal situation by individuals she had once trusted. The emotional undertones of the relationships involved created an additional level of complexity that prosecutors would later confront in court. Interviews with family members on multiple sides of the case added even more depth to the tragedy. Grace's family described her as a young woman searching for stability, belonging, and safety. Her decision to visit Kiara's home was influenced by belief that she would be welcomed rather than harmed. Kiara McCulley, shocked and devastated, found herself in the unimaginable position of discovering that her own daughter had been involved in a killing that occurred inside her property, while she remained completely unaware. The guilt, confusion, and disbelief expressed by Tara reflected the emotional devastation that extended far beyond the crime scene. As investigators continued their work, the influence of Isaac Apodaca became increasingly central to the case. Detectives identified patterns of control, manipulation, and emotional dominance. Prosecutors later argued that Apodaca pressured Kiara into committing the crime and that he used jealousy and emotional threats to elevate the situation into one of lethal violence.
I walked into the garage, and when I walked into the garage, she goes, "Oh, I just did it." And I'm like,
And who was this?
Kiara McCulley.
She told you that?
Very calmly and everything, blood on her hands, and
Right?
I don't want to be there. I was already planning on leaving today too. I have all my stuff packed up, and I wanted to go to my mom and dad's because I'm not in a good mental space.
The messages recovered by police revealed not only planning, but explicit encouragement. These communications painted a clear picture of a young woman being pushed toward an action she may not have considered independently. The dynamic raised questions about coercion, accountability, and the legal responsibility of individuals who influence others to commit violent acts. The brutality of the attack, however, could not be overlooked. The level of force required to inflict the injuries found on Grace suggested significant physical intent. Prosecutors emphasized that regardless of influence or pressure, Kiara executed the killing with a weapon that required deliberate handling and repeated action. This became one of the core issues in the case, whether Kiara acted under coercion to a degree that changed her level of criminal responsibility or whether she willingly committed a calculated attack. Kiara entered a guilty plea to second-degree murder and agreed to testify against Apodaca. This decision provided prosecutors with a key witness who could offer direct insight into motivations, planning, and the psychological environment that shaped the crime. Kiara's plea deal became a defining moment in the legal proceedings. It signaled her acceptance of responsibility while also reshaping the strategy against Apodaca, who remained accused of instigating the murder and guiding its execution from behind the scenes.
She doesn't know she's there.
I was very confused and I told her,
She's kicking me out because you're here and she knows it. Did she not know she was there? Because that's what it looks like.
she knew she was there.
Then why is it looking like in these messages?
She knew she was there and acting like she didn't know where she was. And that was the part that threw me off, was like, she's kicking us out.
As the case moved forward, court documents, interviews, and police reports revealed the complicated emotional connections that existed among all three young individuals involved. The unfolding investigation exposed how quickly relationships marked by instability, manipulation, and jealousy can evolve into violence. Communities that followed the story expressed disbelief that a teenage relationship conflict had escalated into a homicide of such extreme brutality. Legal experts weighed in repeatedly, pointing to the risks associated with unchecked emotional influence among young individuals already dealing with instability, limited life experience, and heightened vulnerability. The horrifying reality is that Grace Jennings walked into a home where she believed she would be safe. Instead, she became the target of a violent attack shaped by emotional turmoil and the interference of a third party who used influence to fuel a fatal outcome. The case continues to be referenced in true crime reporting because it illustrates the dangerous combination of manipulation, secrecy, and emotional volatility among young individuals who lack stability and support systems. The investigation into the Santa Fe sword killing intensified as detectives began reconstructing the timeline leading to the moment Grace Jennings entered the McCulley home. Each detail mattered. Every interaction, movement, and communication became a potential indicator of premeditation, coercion, or emotional collapse. What emerged from witness interviews and electronic records was a chilling narrative involving jealousy, manipulation, and the escalating influence of a young man whose presence in the case would become as central as the brutality of the attack itself. Officers reviewing digital evidence focused heavily on the messages exchanged between Kiara McCulley and her boyfriend, Isaac Apodaca. The tone, content, and timing of these messages suggested not only awareness of Grace's presence in their lives, but a growing hostility driven by emotional insecurity and resentment. Individuals close to the situation recalled that Kiara and Grace had shared a turbulent history as former partners. Their relationship held the familiar traits of young, emotionally charged connections, intense dependence, rapid shifts in affection, and jealousy that magnified disagreements. When the relationship ended, lingering emotional ties remained. Grace continued reaching out periodically, holding on to the idea that she and Kiara might rebuild a friendship or at least regain some level of mutual understanding. However, the introduction of Apodaca into Kiara's life altered that dynamic dramatically. Detectives observed that Apodaca viewed Grace as a threat, not only because of her past with Kiara, but because he was someone who needed control. In many teenage and young adult relationships, emotional influence tends to fluctuate as individuals navigate identity, insecurity, and the desire for acceptance. For investigators, the messages recovered between Kiara and Apodaca appear to show a deliberate effort by Apodaca to capitalize on these vulnerabilities. His words carried tones of pressure, emotional manipulation, and an insistence that Kiara take action against Grace. Law enforcement officials noted that messages expressing frustration, jealousy, and violent fantasies often appear in cases involving teenage escalation. But in this case, those messages were not merely hypothetical. Police allege that Apodaca fed Kiara's insecurities, convincing her that removing Grace from the situation would strengthen their relationship. As detectives reviewed the digital exchanges, they observed a pattern. Apodaca pushed the idea of eliminating Grace. Kiara responded with uncertainty, and he increased the pressure until uncertainty gave way to violent action. These findings became critical in shaping the legal strategy. Prosecutors emphasized that Apodaca acted as a coercive force, creating an emotional environment in which Kiara believed she needed to prove loyalty. Defense attorneys countered by highlighting Kiara's age, emotional vulnerability, and the possibility that she lacked the maturity and stability to resist manipulation from an older partner. Both perspectives forced the public to confront uncomfortable realities about how easily young individuals can be drawn into catastrophic decisions when guided by unstable or predatory influences. Yet the brutality of the attack itself stood separate from the psychological web surrounding the case. Investigators examining the sword used in the killing noted that the weapon required strength, control, and repeated motion. The nature of Grace's injuries revealed a level of force that went far beyond a sudden or impulsive strike. Forensic experts analyzing the scene concluded that the attack involved step-by-step intent, even if that intent had been influenced by emotional pressure. The garage where the incident occurred contained evidence consistent with a struggle, and blood patterns suggested that Grace attempted to defend herself. These findings contradicted early claims made by Kiara and Apodaca, which initially attempted to minimize the extent of the violence. Detectives also noted the placement of Grace's body when officers arrived. The positioning, the proximity to the weapon, and the lack of concealment indicated that the perpetrators made little effort to hide the crime. This detail raised questions about their state of mind following the attack. Some experts suggested that teenagers in emotionally volatile situations may not fully comprehend the legal ramifications of their actions or may experience dissociation, preventing them from understanding the severity of their conduct. Others suggested that fear, panic, or a misguided belief that they would not face immediate consequences contributed to their failure to flee or conceal evidence. Meanwhile, the impact on the victims' families and the surrounding community deepened. Grace's loved ones faced the devastating reality that a young woman who sought safety had been lured into a deadly trap. The grief expressed by her relatives and friends reflected not only heartbreak, but disbelief that someone so young, with a life just beginning, met such a violent end. Interviews with those who knew her described Grace as someone trying to navigate the challenges of young adulthood while managing emotional struggles and searching for connections she believed she could trust. The betrayal she experienced in her final moments became one of the most haunting elements of the case.